Tag. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John von Blauch. I don't have so much to say as I have so much to show you today. Something I want to do is I want to thank everyone for being here, and I would hope that you can understand me. If I speak too quickly, please advise me of this. Yo falo un poquito de portugués, hablo español, pero estoy más cómodo en inglés. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces, para empezar. Sí, me vas a dar un golpe. Así, pues estoy aquí, I am here today, gracias a unos señores que no solamente venían de hace casi 1000 años, pero a unos señores que se llaman Don Fernando de Toro y Garland y su mujer, Doña Patricia. Yo he aprendido del Temple de la mano de Don Fernando en el año 96 hasta 98, cuando en 50 me ha armado caballero profesado entre las manos de Don Fernando, y justamente estaba al lado es vuestro Luis de Matos. Y estoy muy agradecido, muy obrigado a esas personas. Y todos los templarios. Vosotros sois templarios. ¿Y qué es un templario? What is a Templar? A Templar is a quality of equality. To me, it is a just, comprehensive, and compassionate thing. And I am here today to show you symbols. I am not going to tell you what those symbols mean. That's something that you have to do. We're going to talk about what they are. Where they come from? No. We're going to share. This is about sharing today. Sharing something that has meaning, significance, and understanding for you, and hopefully some application in your lives as individuals, as human beings, and as Templars. So, let's start. All right? If we may. We can pass by this. We'll come back to this one later. Okay. This here is an late 17th, that's in the late 1600s, cross. It pertained to an order that claimed descent from the Order of the Temple, or actually claimed to be pre-existent to the Order of the Temple, and that the Order of the Temple came out of. There's an interesting side to this. Blue and red has some significance to Templars, and to other groups, other societies. Maybe you may know something about that. You also see in the British flag, you'll see red, white, and blue, a composite, right, of, it's called the Union Jack, the St. Andrew's Cross, and this cross of St. George. But here we have three colors. We have the color of nobility, blue, the celestial, the red, the passion, and the white, the purity. So if we can continue on. This is the reverse of this cross. This cross is ciphered. It is encrypted with a message. That message we will talk about in a year from now, when I come back here to talk again. But this, you will find symbols here in Portugal that are represented here. And you will note that there are several points, dots. These are not arbitrary. There is a date, 1022. Maybe it isn't a date, but it does nonetheless stand for something. Next, please. The Order of the Holy Sepulchre. This is very important because it is a cross that has been used, a cross potent, by Templars as well. All of these things have been made with vitreous enamels. The technique for making vitreous enamels is based on a process of sublimating metals and minerals into something called glass. Well, glass is a product of mineralogy. So, these are all finely baked enamels, and the red that you get is only achieved through the sublimation of 24-karat gold. This in and of itself is an act of chemistry, alchemy, because glass is leaded, that was being done by the Templars. Now, this was not done by the Templars, but the Templars did do this. That's what you see in these stained glass windows throughout Europe. Anyway, onward and upward. So, we see the cross of the Sovereign Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem, to which I became a member, thanks to Don Fernando and Doña Patricia, and all of the Templars. So if we can continue on. This is the cross of a patriarch of Jerusalem. It is a cross patriarchal, right? It is floric, has fleur-de-lis on the ends of it. This is the cross that was worn, according to tradition, and to some today, by the head of the Church of Jerusalem, who was also alleged to be a Johannine Christian, one who followed the doctrine of love, the way of the heart, the way of the evangelist, John the Evangelist. We can continue on. This is an artifact. It is a composite. This was, we can look at the back quickly, please. That's the year 1250. That's at the end of the Seventh Crusade. We see the Dome of the Rock. You see the Dome of the Rock. Yes? Yes? Doctor, what did you want to say? Nothing? You're not happy with it? Well, anyway, it's a composite. Is it a fantasy? Okay, well, we'll talk about it. Okay, so we're talking about... Okay, but this device, if we can go back to it, the Dome of the Rock is partially covered. This here has been dated. This dates, this glass, the seal is made out of, dates from the 14th century, the 300s. That cross up there is made from something called a Libyan tektite. In ancient Egypt, on jewelry, on sarcophagi, they would use yellow stones, just like lapis lazuli. These stones, these yellow stones, were found in the Near East, between modern-day Libya and Egypt. They were the result of an impact hundreds of thousands of years ago, which caused the minerals in the sand to fuse and create a natural glass. This cross on the top is the result of them powdering that glass right there and reconstituting it inside of there. That has also been sampled and documented. And that also dates from approximately the same period. It's very hard with these kinds of dating. We're talking about maybe 100 years, give or take. So, if we can continue on. Okay, we see that. This is a button. This button comes from a family by the name of Royer. Okay? That's the provenance on it, as does the other piece. They have nothing to do with the Templars today, but they did have a lot to do with the Templars historically. This button, allegedly, it is crystal, rock crystal, and it is carved from reverse in intaglio, and it is dyed. And the dye that is used on it is a very peculiar dye, because it is a vitreous enamel. To achieve enamel on crystal, the heat work, you have to be very careful to do that. It's very high temperatures, but because enamel is glass. How did they manage to enamel the reverse of a piece of rock crystal, quartz, and make this into a button? And if you'll notice, this button has, and according to this is from the 13th century, the end of the 1200s. This cross has, I believe, a cross that similar looks like to the Order of Christ, yes? I think we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 white dots. Well, the Order of Christ was founded when? How many? When was the Order of Christ founded? Do we know? Yes. The Order of Christ. 1319? Yes. So, before 1319. Continue, please. This is a much later piece. This belonged to a member of the Order of the Temple, a more modern Order of the Temple, which dates from the 18th century, the very early part of the 18th century. This is, again, not a cross patriarchal, but a cross of Lorraine. It is set with Bohemian garnets, and it is in 22-karat gold and sterling silver. Curious. It's set in silver to set off the gemstones, but the rest of the body of the cross is 22-karat gold, which was made from ducats at the time. Ducados, I believe it was they were called. So, if we can continue.
We say that
Lorraine
was one of the counties of France by the king.
Yes.
And the cross of Lorraine
Please.
is king's.
The King's Cross. Ah, it's the King's Cross. So the Cross of Lorraine is the King's Cross. But we'll get into that.
King of Lorraine.
Because we wear a King's...
Lorraine was a big
Yes.
region which is today Alsace.
Alsace-Lorraine. Okay, fantastic. This is the cross that belonged to one of the Grand Masters of the Teutonic Order in the late 15th century. His name was Heinrich von Plauen. He was an ancestor of mine. This is to give you an idea. This is also vitreous enamel. This is done in black and white, and this is also 22-karat gold.
That was the Luftwaffe.
No, the Luftwaffe nicht. Nein, it's the Deutsche Friedensorden. It's the German Knights Order, the Teutonic Knights. The Teutonic Knights played a very important role. Black with white, exactly. The Iron Cross, the Eisenkreuz, was a result of an adjustment of this cross. But this was the cross used by the Germanic Crusaders, the Hospitallers of St. Mary, which many Templars did join. If we can continue on. This is a very interesting piece. It's 3 different periods. This is late Renaissance. And it belonged to what would be described as a prelate in the Johannine Church. Not the Johannite Church, the Johannine Church. The Church of John the Evangelist. Not the exoteric church, but the esoteric church. It's made of sterling silver, 18 karat, actually it's a little more like 19.3 karat, like your Portuguese gold, and garnets. You're all welcome to see it later. And it's got a remarkable amount of detail work in it. But if you can see here, you have a cross here that's very similar to the temple. Yes? It almost looks like an iron cross. It's like a cross pate. Yes. And how do we call that? The 8 Beatitudes, is that what it is? Okay. It has fleur de lis there. We'll have a look at it. It's actually here for you to see. In fact, you're all welcome to pass it around. Would you like to do that? Can we get through this? All right. Onward and upward. A ring. A ring allegedly based upon a Templar ring of profession. Okay? In sterling silver. It has 9 crosses on the outside and 9 crosses on the inside. Very high. 9 and 9. 18. Right. Okay. 1 plus 8 is 9. Let's go on to the next slide. This is a ring that is a ring of profession from the Templar order. It came through a Teutonic Knight family, but it was alleged to have been the Templars. The family had been called Albi Trencaval until they arrived in Switzerland after the Albigensian Crusade, and then they formed part of the Teutonic order. And their name today is Sponderweiss. Okay? And their base or their seat was Sion in Switzerland, and also Zurich. Yes. So, if we can continue. Those are some images of it. You'll notice it has a very peculiar design on the inside. It almost looks like I-O, like indigo, homemade. It's I-O. It's I-O. Ivanhoe. No, not Ivanhoe. E-O. 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 Oh, it's two of the principal vowels. We have E-O-A, yeah? Okay, so we can continue. Is everyone understanding me so far? Are you following this? What do you think of the pictures? I didn't make them. They're nice? Okay, so, fine, okay. This is a cross from a man by the name of Bernard Faber-Palaprat. He created a Renaissance, a new Templar order in the early 19th century, and this is based on the Templar cipher cross. And if you notice, the diadem is inside the actual crown. In other words, the diadem, or the sphere that represents the earth, is inside the vault of an eternal kingdom or empire. And this is a more modern version of that cross. This I damaged. It's my fault. I broke it. But it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting to see these things. You'll notice here on the Order of the Holy Sepulchre that these are also cross potents. That's very uncommon. They typically are Greek crosses, equilateral red crosses. The Tau cross, the Tau cross, has a strong association with the Teutonic Knights and the Templars. And who was it? Who wears the Tau cross? There's someone here who wears a Tau cross, a wooden one. What was it? What is the Franciscans? Who wears the Tau cross? The Franciscans? Is it the Franciscans who wear a Tau cross? Is it? Okay, very good. Okay, let's go on, please. This was given to me by Don Fernando. This is the cross of the Sovereign Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem. This was made by the company that I was the managing director of and part owner of, CITA, one of the most oldest and most prestigious manufacturers of all orders and decorations for all of the royal families in Europe, as well as that of Haile Selassie's family, the royal family of Ethiopia, and others. This is an important device because this is not the classic patriarchal cross. It is not. It is inverted. Exactly. We have a much longer bar up here and a lower bar, and a shorter bar here. It's usually the opposite. Okay, can we continue on, please? This was designed at the request of Don Fernando for merit. And this, I got the idea of this thing that had to do with these octagonal temples, yes? Octagonal temples. So I went to Veracruz, and I looked at Veracruz, which is in Segovia. And so I tried to design something, and it even has an arch up there, but you can't see it. That's where the ribbon goes through. The idea was to represent something from above as below. And there we have it. It's patterned after the architecture of Veracruz. All right, please continue. This is a Templar cross that comes from France. It's from the late 19th century.
The real vermilion color.
Yes, they're real vermilion color, which can be only constituted by the use of 24 karat gold in leaded glass. Ah, well, okay. Okay, but we got a few more to go. Thank you. Okay, let's go. Thank you. This is a very curious piece, because now we're going to get into some symbols. There's something called the pelican and its piety. The pelican and its piety is described as Christ sacrificing himself for the church or for his parishioners or whatever. It's curious because in the bestiaries of France and the Middle Ages and earlier, they talk about this, but they also talk about it from a different standpoint. They say that when a male pelican would arrive at the nest after the little hatchlings had just come out of their eggs, they would be very hungry. And when the male would arrive at the nest, he would beat them to death because they would try and be feeding from him, and he didn't feed them. So when the mother would come, she would find that her chicks were dead. And what would she do? She would open her breast, a baptism of blood, a rejuvenation, a resurrection. Now, this also has a rose on it. I don't know if you can see the Templar style cross in red. This is also 22 karat gold and sterling silver. They didn't have platinum back then. Platinum only came at the end of the 19th century. So to get white metal, they had to use silver. So, we see the pelican in its piety. There are two forms of the pelican in its piety. And we want to go back to the idea of, is it a woman or is it a man? Is the pelican a feminine symbol? And if so, what does that mean? That's an interesting thing to ponder. There's something else about the pelican in its piety. They're either pictured with 3 chicks or 7. Pollitos, no? Okay. So, can we go on? No, and this is not Masonic. This is not Masonic. This is the Renaissance. This is not a pelican. This is an eagle. An eagle on a blue field. And with a vitreous enamel piece. We have a rose up there, yes. Up on the top there. I think I've seen that in one of your books, actually. I've seen it in a lot of places. And we have this, again, this compass, an open circle. Okay, can we continue, please? Very, very early 18th century Masonic Templar cross, coming out of Germany. You notice it's a similar style cross to the one we're talking about next year. It has 3 points. Is that M for Maria? I don't know. I mean, so, all right. But we have a snake on the cross, and it's raised upon 3. What are those steps? Okay. So can we continue on? This is also silver. These are remarkable. These are the only ones known in the world. They were brought to Pennsylvania in the late 17th century and early 18th century. Many of you are familiar with the Amish, the Anabaptists. Well, something came to Pennsylvania which was called Rosicrucianism. That Rosicrucianism that came to Pennsylvania has been preserved to this day. The Anabaptists, they do have something to do with that. They're pietists. But these crosses are made in the 1600s, and they are made from rock crystal, Bohemian garnets, and they portray, these are pectoral crosses, they're enormous. They're about this size. One has the pelican, and one has the eagle. Two very separate. They're not saying they're the same thing. Is it male and female? What is it about? What does the eagle represent? The eagle typically is referred to as John the Evangelist, yes? Yes? And power, the ability to go up, and this, okay, so let's go on. Strict Observance Cross, 18th century. The Strict Observance, Baron von Hund. You're familiar with this? The Masonic movement? Okay. Notice, we have the date, we have the initials, I believe it's Jacques Burgundis, Olea Burgundy, in the AD year of Jesus Christ, and I think this is 1314, I believe it is. We have a 5-pointed star. I think that has something to do with Solomon. On this side, which is later, this is a much later one, it's about 100 years later, we have something that has a 6-pointed star, the Magam David, the shield of David, and a cross inside. Notice this at the bottom here. If this is a flint, a steel flint, for striking steel. In the order of the golden fleece, in the collar of the golden fleece, you have alternating flintstones with steels to strike sparks. The bottoms of these crosses are designed, notice they're different from the other arms, are designed to represent a steel used to strike flint. And guess where the first or the fifth province of the temple was? Burgundy. And where does the golden fleece come from? Burgundy. And where did the Strict Observance Templars claim from Burgundy. And the Knights Beneficent of the Holy City today, the oldest province is the 5th province, yes? Burgundy. Okay, so we can continue on. This is an award. There's something called Charles XIII given out in Sweden. This was awarded back in the 18th and 19th century to members of the German nobility who were Freemasons. It has a B on the inside for the Duke of Brunswick. And it's made with red glass, red cut glass. This is what was used by the people in Sweden and still is to this day. It's the Order of Knighthood, called Charles XIII. And this was used in Germany. This is all part of the Templar legacy. All right, can we continue, please? There's the W on the back. This is for Wilhelm. This was for Wilhelm because it was the Wilhelm, King of Prussia, who would later become Kaiser Wilhelm I of Prussia. This was awarded in approximately 1848. All right? And this individual who it was awarded to was the head of what they would refer to as the Norse or Christian Freemasons of Germany. Continue. This is the ring of profession that belonged to him. This has on it a Templar Cross. It was worn in the middle finger. We can continue. Here we have something from the Swedish Rite. The obverse, or the reverse of this, has an image of a man that appears to be John the Baptist. On this side, we have the Lamb with the Book of 7 Seals. These are smatterings of what Freemasonry has to do with the temple for you, and the symbols. But this is Johannite, not Johannine. This is based on the idea of John the Baptist. You have him up here, you have him upstairs. He's everywhere in the temple. Let's go. All right. Something about the Paraclete, the Holy Ghost, right? The empire of the Holy Spirit, the age of the Holy Spirit. This belonged to the head of a Templar order. And we'll see one. This is actually from the 20th century. We're going to see one that's much earlier. Can we go on, please? This one, which is made of gold, and it is very large. Very large. It's about that big. It's enormous. This is hand finfilado a mano. It's cast and then engraved by hand. This belonged, according to the tradition, to the head of the Johannine Church of the Order of the Temple. The Order of the Temple that was existing in the 18th century. All right, that would be in the 1700s. And it was not affiliated with Freemasonry. Please continue. All right, what do we have here? We have the collar of a prefect in the rectified Scottish regime or rite of Freemasonry. It has perit ut vivat. Perish to live, isn't that what it means? Perit ut vivat? Phoenix, okay. And this is the seal that belonged to the Duke of Brunswick. This is a seal in what they call Lagenstein or agate. And it has this phoenix on it. Okay, we can continue. Just the idea of burning, and this is St. Andrew. St. Andrew is very important. We'll talk about him some other time. St. Andrew is very important. It's the X. X marks the spot. It marks the threshold or a change, a cross in roads, a change in the roads, a joining in the roads, a nexus point. All right, here we go. That's great. Okay. This is actually from Switzerland, from the late 1700s. This is from the mid 1835, and this is much earlier. Yes?
Here you have
Yes.
symbolic two triangles.
Yes.
It has a basic figure of geometrics. Two triangles meet, 1 point down, 1 point up, which is considered the Star of David.
David, yeah.
It is also considered like a symbol of all kinds of
as above is below, the nexus point, the coming together, the 4 elements that you can see in there, and a hexagon. Hexagon, isn't that not in physics a very important thing? The hexagon, when you draw chemical formulas? Absolutely. Okay, let's go on. Here we get back to this Rosicrucian business in Templars. This was made by the company Salvo, design. It's the oldest rectified Scottish regime lodge. It's called Caballeros de la Rosa, Knights of the Rose. And it has a rose with 72 petals on the inside, and a chain which represents the union, the fraternal and confraternal union that exists throughout the world. Green is a very important color. Green, it is said, is the last color a human being perceives before they die. It is the first color that a human being can perceive after they are born, after they stop seeing in black and white. Green is a very interesting color. It is the transitional color. You have something called the magic moment at night, magic moment, twilight. It seems to be, everything gets magically green. Everybody's going to fall asleep. Let's get moving. Move along. Okay, more Templar crosses. Knights Beneficent of the Holy City. All right, continue, please. The chapter of the Black Eagle Rose Croix, the pectoral cross. It looks like a pelican, but is it? There's no little chicks down there. Okay, next. There's what looks like a flying eagle. This little sun up there, by the way, if we go to Tomar tomorrow, which I think we will if you survive this, you will see something like a gargoyle head outside, and it looks just like that. Now, is that happenstance? Is that coincidence? I don't know. Is it synchronicity? Synchronicity is the coming together of 2 points or angles. Let's go on. This is the order of the Royal Order of Scotland. Didn't mean to be redundant there. This claims descent from the Battle of Bannockburn. Robert the Bruce later constituted this for the purposes of preserving the order of the Temple. This is the highest order of knighthood that can be awarded, supposedly, by the House of the Scots in exile, and it is awarded to strictly Christian Freemasons. And we have 3 triangles joining together and forms a St. Andrew's cross with roses on. There are those roses again. They keep coming up. This triune set of triangles, it's an interesting concept. It's the Triple Trinity. I'm sure you see it in architecture, don't you? The Triple Trinity. You say, okay, let's go. The Order of the Red Branch of Eyre, or Erie, the Irish order. Okay, that's also, there's a patriarchal cross. This thing about the idea of the patriarchs, this idea of an authority coming to the Templars from some kind of inner church keeps repeating itself in these orders of knighthood, these confraternities, these secret societies or societies with secrets. Let's go forward. All right, the Society of the Rosicrucians, the Masonic one. Again, a red cross. On the inside of this, you will find, it says looks like, and you have a 5-pointed star, which is underneath the enamel. Guillochade inside. A lozenge. And we go. Okay. Holy Royal Arch Knight Templar Priests. This is a Salem cross. And we have the Triangle of Fire. And this is supposedly, it's a creation of the 19th century. But it is the idea that Templars, Masonic Knight Templars, could be raised to a state of prelature. They could become prelates, and they would be priests, all right, in this inner church. Onward, please. Crosses of the Knights Templar used in the 1800s by Masonic Freemasons or Masonic Templars in England. Cross-cottes. Beautiful examples. Breast stars. This one dates from the 18th century there at the top. These other ones date from the 19th century. Well, actually, these two, this one here and this one here, both date from the late 18th century. And these two, the Victorian period.
Stop, because people don't follow. It's too much.
It's too much? There's so much. There's so much. Is it too much? No. Is it too much? No. Are we having fun? Yeah. All right. Well, that's what's important. Let's keep going. All right. Sure. All right. Oh, here's this symbol of equality, right? This balances. This is a Templar cross as well. And it looks almost like some kind of political movement, doesn't it? With the fists held high. Okay, so this is for the instructor of works of the Knights Templar, and it's all about. Is it equilibrium, balance? There's something I believe in the Nag Hammadi that talks about the sign of the Father in you will be movement and repose, or the balance between them. So let's go on. Masonic Knight Templar pieces. This is from the period of 1860 in the United States, from the Grand Commandery Knights Templar of Pennsylvania. This is an earlier one from about 1840. It comes from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where all those Amish live, and where the film The Witness with Harrison Ford was filmed. And this one comes from my hometown, where I was born, Reading, Pennsylvania. Not Reading, Pennsylvania. I did learn to read in Reading, Pennsylvania, but Reading, Pennsylvania, which is a very densely populated, historically densely populated by German people. And they brought their own Masonic Templar rites, and some of them still survive to this day in Reading, Pennsylvania. So anyway, 1854. This says, Sic Deus vult. What does that have to mean? Is it, let God's will be done? Or is it Deus vult? Is God wills it. God's will. And Sic Deus vult? He ordered it. Okay. And he ordered something in 1921. I don't know. But we have, again, this red and this blue coming together. And we have a sword. Isn't that magnificent? And we have this lozenge, this symbol, this visis piscis, right? This symbol for like a fish. This also the opening to the matrix. Yes. Down, the sword pointed down. Yes, exactly. Peace. Peace through harmony, through a joining of these two. It's not yin and yang, it's blue and red. It's not black and white, but maybe it is. Okay, so onward but upward. Ah, Portugal. Yes. Here's these wonderful dragons of yours, right? Yes, this was awarded many, many years. I got this in 2000, I think. And this is silver. And it's a Masonic device, but it has this cross that you all use, or the Templars here, just all over this place. I saw it. I thought I should bring it along. Very interesting. It's from the Grand Lodge of the Republic of Portugal, yes? All right. Next, please. Here we have some interesting. THE, Templi Hierosolimitani Equestrian, Knight of the Temple of Jerusalem, THE. These are from the early 1700s. They are not Masonic. The crosses here, we have an 8-arm cross. We have a cross potent and a St. Andrew's cross. And you see the sword going up. But this sword is a flaming sword. A flaming sword. And this is a star. But this is not just a 5-pointed star. It's something more. I would dare say we should look at that. Can we see the other sides of them? We have bicephalous eagles. Double-headed eagles, something we see in the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. But again, this is prior to the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And these eagles are carrying something in their talons. There was a book I was asking about. Luis de Matos, are you here? Luis de Matos. What was that book I was asking about? The Greek man who lived in Portugal, the Knight Templar fellow?
Parashi.
How do you say his name? Parashi. Parashi, on all of his publications. Okay, well, he was in your house. You have his book? Well, guess what? In his book, the publishing house, he uses this as a symbol. And he wasn't a Freemason, was he? No, he wasn't. Oh. All right, let's go on.
He wanted to make a reform
of the Temple.
Order of the Temple, and he proposed an absolute change of the...
Okay, this is a remarkable piece. This is a bishop's ring. This belonged to Frederick II of Prussia. Frederick the Great. This has a bicephalous eagle on it because it is alleged that Frederick the Great constituted the 33 degrees of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. This is a wax impression of it. It says, Deus meum queius. I think mon Dieu et mon droit in French, yes? My God and my right. All right? But all right, no pun intended. Again, the double-headed eagle. What does this mean? What does the double-headed eagle? We see it in Hermeticism, see it everywhere. Okay, onward, please. There it is again, on a cross potent. There's some enduring thing in Freemasonry. There's something about the Order of the Temple. There's a movie called Something About Mary. Well, there's something about the Order of the Temple in Freemasonry. 30th is, this was from the 30th, Kadosh. And okay, so we have, this is Kadosh. And this is from the 18th, okay, one with this flaming sword, the cherubic sword it's called, the sword of the cherubim. Okay? Alrighty. And this is not vitreous enamel. These are jewels. This is from the 1830s, from a 32nd degree Mason. This was made by Sehalvo. This is mine. And it has a 5-petaled rose in it, curiously enough. And this is from about 1813, based on the hallmarks on it. And this is a bicephalous eagle. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. But trying to get you a smattering of symbols that we could revisit if you invite me back. Okay. Let's see. Here we go, more. We have these crosses everywhere. Okay, we have cross potent, Knight Kadosh, black and white eagle. All right? The duality. Then we have here the black and white triangle. This is a 32nd degree jewel. This is, here we have this intersection of two triangles coming together. Very interesting. All right, so, and this is the jewel of a 33rd degree Mason. Again, we have three intersect. Why black and gold? I don't know. We'll have to talk about that sometime, won't we? Let's go on. Okay, 31st degree in Freemasonry. There we have the balances, equilibrium, justice. The idea of justice. The idea of justice. Yes, the idea of justice. Okay. The name of Yod He Vav He, the Tetragrammaton, but with a shin, which I believe is like Sh, which is like Yeshua, yeah? Jesus, Joshua. Okay. 18th degree Masonry. Here we have some, this is a very old German piece. Okay, this was made in the early 1800s. It is not specifically associated with Freemasonry either. It's made in ivory, silver, and gold. It has an eye up there in the top. And it has a ruby in the center. All right, go on. Here's some other examples of these jewels that they call the Rosicrucian 18th degree of Freemasonry. Okay, again, an eagle. The eagle again, the pelican. Let's continue. Here's a beautiful example made in the late 18th century in France. All right. You see the red crosses here? It's an enduring symbol in all of this. Okay, next. Here we got some more. All right, this is a feast for your eyes if you like this kind of stuff. I hear the yawn, so let's keep going. Bop, bop, bop. Yep, you've seen that. Okay, or you haven't, but we just did. All right, more of them. And some more. And, Isabel the Catholic. The Order of Isabel the Catholic. Spanish order. The Pillars of Hercules. Yes, there is ne plus ultra, nothing beyond this. And the Red Cross. Vitreous enamel. Isabel the Catholic. The Order of the Chase, St. Hubert. This is from Württemberg. Yes. There's something having to do with hunting and being a knight. And this order was one of the highest orders of the King of Württemberg could give out. And they professed the lineage going back to the Order of the Temple. Green and red again. And red, white, and blue. Okay, this is the Bulgarian Order of St. George and Constantine. This is the Orthodox version, not the Bourbon version. All right. This is the cross of the Order of the Slovak Cross, the Red Patriarchal Cross. Interesting, used during the period where Slovakia was independent during the 1930s and early 40s. This is another. Look at these four swords coming together, and the Cross of Lorraine. Yes, the Cross of Lorraine. All right, and then it's on the knights. And then we have red, white, and blue again, and not for the United States either. It's red, white, and blue. What is it? Drachirat, the Order of the Dragon. The Dracul. The Order of the Dragon. This is the golden spur of a knight. This is the Ouroboros, the Order of the Dragon. The Dracul, Dracula, yeah? And a patriarchal cross. You know about the Order of the Dragon? You've heard of it? Okay, well there it is. Okay, another piece, another Templar piece, another side of it, point within a circle, the center point. You see that? The center point. And we're back to this. We'll get back to that. I just want you to all look at this briefly. Just have a look at what you have. And then this is an interesting device. It has INRI. It has all uppercase letters, or the I, this is a lowercase I. It has a dot within the circle. There are 72 rays of the light coming out here. 72. It all starts with 30, from 9, goes to 72. This I is told to represent, the point within the circle, is to represent intent. You all need to know what your intent is as Templars. Intent. Intent is everything. It's what magic is all about. It's the magic that keeps us going. Intent. And having a dream. And then this is just a lovely rendition of the Templar Cross. Okay. I think that's pretty much it, with exception to two things I wanted to do. One, I wanted to present this to you, but I wanted to talk about one more piece up here. This is just to give you a little quick. Can we show them the coin? All right. You've heard of the Merovingian dynasty and the Frankish king Dagobert? This is all like Priory of Sion, Da Vinci Code crap. Okay? All right. It's shrouded in myth and mystery. One of these myths is the founder of the dynasty, Morelius, who is said to have been a kinotar, a sea monster, who inseminated his mother when she went out to swim in the ocean. In French, the word mer means sea, yes? Possibly. Okay. In some traditions, Atlantis was called Meru or Maru. For the gods, navigation was critical. Yes? Ship-built traveling by sea was navigation. Navigation was critical to power and trade. The Atlanteans were associated with the sea and often depicted as mermen or sea monsters with scales, fins, and horns. They were also associated with a variety of animals whose symbolism they held sacred. The horse, bull, goat, ram, lion, fish, serpent, dragon, cats and dogs. Cats and dogs, can you imagine that? Okay, are we getting along like cats and dogs? Yes. It is also seen as being emblematic of the fish symbol. That of Christ is associated with it. thus indicating a supposed tie to the Merovingian line to some people. Okay? The kinatar can even be broken down where the last section of the word tar means bull. The first symbol, kin, or kin, comes from the same root as king, or Cain. You see I've got the mark of Cain here in my head? All right, well, the mark of Cain. Okay, and the idea of the king of the world, taking the form of a sea bull, is represented across cultures. Ancient Sumer, Enki, Dagon, Oannis, or Marduk. Mythologie ist greifbar auf Deutsch. Mythology is tangible. Do you know that? Mythology is tangible. It is. But we can go further with that. I know. To quote Elton John, he said, "For each man in his time is Cain until he walks along the beach." So it's going back to the water, right? And being Cain, okay. They were depicted as half man and half fish, like that symbol of Capricorn, the half goat, half fish, or half bull and half fish, through the wearing of costumes. Dagon was depicted with a fish in his head, lips protruding upward, looking like horns, and from it we get the word dragon. Christ also took on the imagery, as did John the Baptist, and early Christians used this ictus to designate themselves. From Oannes we get the words Uranus, and Oranus, and also Jonah, Janus, and John, Ioannis. So Dagobert's name literally means priest king of the house of Dagon to some people. We see in this coin the symbol of a fish. This is a Merovingian coin. A fish that is ascending towards the cross of Lorraine. Well, it's actually the cross that's used by the Southern Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem. All right, an inverted patriarchal cross as seen in the first millennium minted coins from a place called Sion in Switzerland. Note, Sion is John in Welsh. Sean in Welsh. In Gaelic, Gaelic. And what do the Welsh symbolize? By a red dragon. The cross is associated with Merovingians. This cross represents duality, as represented at that famous place that they made it very popular with a lot of mythology called Rennes-le-Château, where Asmodeus and Jesus Christ are staring at the same black and white mosaic checkered floor. This duality is extended to God and Lucifer, Cain and Abel, and even Enki and Enlil, as the symbol first appeared in Sumerian hieroglyphics. All right, I think we're about finished. Are we relieved at this point? The ascension is also taking place between a series of dots that look very similar to the constellation of Draco. If you go up to the center and look in the library, you sit at one of the tables, you look right up and you can see that, these dots. They correspond to something called the constellation of Draco, which alludes to the order of, or the dragon. This coin then is a representation of symbols that have their roots in some of the earliest civilizations, whether they be drawn from Sumer, flowing out of Egypt, Carthage, and ultimately, possibly, the Merovingian, Franks, where it settles into the imagery of several subsequent orders, decorations, and societies. And with that, I would like to thank you all and for staying awake. All right, thank you very much.